Do you wonder what's the best way to post on Pinterest? Are you looking for a step-by-step guide for posting your pins to Pinterest? Maybe you're not sure what to do after you've created new content or designed pins. How often to pin? Should you manually pin? Use a scheduler? I get it. There's so many questions, especially when it comes to the frequency of pinning, if you should be designing multiple pins or not. Whew, we know pinning can be complicated. So in this video, I'm going to take you step by step through the entire process of creating your content, designing your pins, and how you should pin those. So hey y'all, it's Natalie Bardo, your Pinterest coach here. And if you love Pinterest marketing tips, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I love being your Pinterest coach, and I'm going to answer questions just like this one to help you get traffic from Pinterest. All right, so let's first cover our basics just in case you're a beginner. First, you're going to want to make sure that you have a Pinterest business account, that you've claimed a domain, whether that's your website or your YouTube channel or your shop, and that you've also set up rich pins. I'm going to put links down below if you need to check any of those boxes. So our very first step is you're going to have to create your content. So what exactly are we pinning on Pinterest? It's links to our content. So whether that's a blog post or a landing page, it could be a product listing or a YouTube video or podcast episode. Whatever it is, the content that you're creating to share images to on Pinterest, you're going to want to create that content. But here's an important tip. You want to make sure that content is optimized. Don't forget to include any of that metadata. So that includes your open graph title and description. This is key for rich pins. So when we save this bit of content to Pinterest with our pins, you want to make sure that all of that information that is SEO optimized also shows up and is added to Pinterest with your pin. It's going to help it show up in search results and drive even more traffic to your content. So that first step is you want to create your content and make sure it's optimized. Remember, when it comes to Pinterest, we want to make sure that we are adding different links. So not just one link over and over. That's why you've got to create content regularly. So whether that's writing weekly blog posts, creating a YouTube video, even your podcast episodes, coming out with fresh products in your Etsy shop, you want to make sure that you're keeping things fresh by having new content and new links to share. So our second step is to design 3 to 5 Pinterest pins for that new piece of content. You're going to make the most use of your time by designing multiple pins at once. So this is how I do it. I usually have that one, which I call my title pin. It's usually the same image or design as the feature image on my blog post, and I'm just perfectly sizing that image for Pinterest. So currently the best size for Pinterest pins is 1000 by 1500 pixels. So you want to go ahead and create those Pinterest pins in those sizes. But here is the thing. You're going to design multiple pins. I hope you have Pinterest templates, but I encourage you to make sure that those pins are different and distinct, that you're not just designing a handful of pins that pretty much look exactly the same. You want them to be different. So here's how I would break it down. I would design one video pin. You can easily do this in Canva by adding an animation or dropping in a video into the background. And then designing 2 standard image pins. So these are images, they're not video, just one static image. That's a standard pin. And if you have the time, or if you're using idea pins as part of your strategy, you could design an idea pin that you could also post about this content. So one piece of content, we're designing 3 to 5 pins. So of course, you can design more standard pins to make up your 5, or if you're just doing 3. But the key here is to make sure that your pins are distinct and different. You want to make sure that whatever your content is about, you have those keywords on your actual pin image. So if you're designing a post on crystals and stones for beginners, you want to make sure that's on the image of the pin. And go ahead and design those multiple pins. Like I said, I love to use Canva. It's very easy to design multiple pins and easily update your templates. So our third step for posting the best way on Pinterest is to make sure you SEO optimize your pins. So before you even post that first pin, you want to make sure you have that optimized pin title and pin description. So if you need help with writing out your pin titles or descriptions, click down below. I have deeper tutorials that teach you the secrets to writing pin titles and descriptions if you need help with that. So you want to make sure that one, your SEO keyword, the same one you had on your image, the same one that your content was optimized with, is also in your pin title and your pin descriptions. This is another important step that you want to make sure when we're SEO optimizing our pins is choosing the right board. So many people forget about this, but the board that you choose is just as important as your pin title. You want to make sure that one, the board you're choosing is the most relevant board for your content, okay? So with our example of crystals and stones for beginners, I'm not adding that to a recipe board. I have a board on becoming more spiritual, so I'm going to add it to that board because it's closely related to spirituality. This is an existing board that I have that is already optimized and has pins in the same category of content that are doing well. So you want to look at your profile and figure out what is the best board that makes sense for the keyword, where the content is closely related, but also where you have existing pins doing well. If you don't have a board that meets that criteria, I encourage you to create a fresh board and SEO optimize the title and description by choosing a keyword and using all the related keywords. The same tips for writing pin descriptions are going to help you with writing your board descriptions. All right, so you have that pin that you've designed, you've SEO optimized the title and the description, and you know exactly where you're going to pin it. That takes us to our fourth step. You're going to pin your first pin for that piece of content. And a little bit of bonus is if you can do that from your content. So if you've created a blog post or even a product listing on your website where you're able to pin directly from that content. So you might need to use a plugin like Social Warfare Pro or Grow Social Pro to be able to pin from your content to Pinterest. So as opposed to uploading your pin directly on the Pinterest website, you're going to want to pin it first from the content itself, not just pinning it from the Pinterest website. So in the back end, if you're using WordPress, you could do something like this, adding in your pin title, your pin description, and pinning your content over to Pinterest. If not, you're going to want to go to the Pinterest website and upload your pin there. You're going to add your image, add in that SEO optimized title and description, drop in the link. If it's a video pin, you're going to want to add any of those topic tags. So one important thing I want to mention here is I had you write your pin SEO optimized title and descriptions before even uploading that pin. We want to save this information. So I encourage you to use something like a Google Doc or even a spreadsheet to keep track of your optimized titles and descriptions so that you can easily customize them when you schedule or upload the remaining pins that you've designed. You don't need to start from scratch every single time you upload a pin for this existing piece of content. So as you guessed, we're going to make use of the remaining pins that you've designed. So maybe you have 2 or even 4 more pins for the exact same content. You do not want to pin those pins right away. That's why our next step to pinning the best way on Pinterest is to schedule our remaining pins. So you have 2 options for this. You can schedule 2 weeks of pins at a time using the Pinterest website, or you can use a tool like Tailwind to schedule your content as far in advance as you like. This is what I do for my content. I have many pins scheduled basically a year out from now. That way I never have to stress about having pins going out. And because remember, the most important thing when it comes to a Pinterest marketing strategy is your consistency. You want to make sure that you have fresh pins going out daily, even if that's just one fresh pin. You can do this easily if you're using a scheduler like Tailwind. So you're going to take the remaining pins that you've designed and you're going to upload those to Tailwind. You can then make sure you schedule them at least 7 days in between the same link. So you have all these extra pins. You might be wondering, do I pin those additional pins to the same board as the first pin? You can. Oftentimes, there is going to be a best possible board for your content, especially if you just created a fresh board. But you can also pin a few of those to other related boards as well. So just like my example of crystals and stones for beginners, I could also pin one of those pins to my law of attraction board or even to my mindfulness and meditation board. Also, related boards that are optimized that would be a good fit for this content. So especially if you're going to pin that pin again within 7 days, I encourage you, maybe the second place you add it is not to the exact same board. Add it to a different board. You want to give your first pin time to be indexed and to get a lot of traffic. I have found that it is the first pin to a piece of content that does the best. So you want to give that first pin the best chance of success. Okay, so here's the next step you're going to do. You want to take part in Tailwind communities. So you're going to take that pin that you added to the best possible board and you're going to add it to a Tailwind community or 2 or 3 or even a handful of Tailwind communities that are filled with relevant content creators in your niche who are going to save your pin to their boards. So instead of you doing something like repinning or resaving the same image over and over and over and over again, which is something you do not want to do, it is a big mistake with Pinterest. So if you're new to Pinterest, actually check out this video on the top 10 mistakes you want to avoid on Pinterest. So don't repin it. You want others to do the repinning for you. That's why Tailwind communities are such a powerful way to increase your exposure, increasing your views and your clicks to your content. So let's run through all of these steps to posting the best way on Pinterest again. Number 1, you've created your content, whether that's a new product, a blog post, a YouTube video, or even a podcast episode. You've made sure that you've added your metadata, if possible, to the back end of your content. You're then going to design 3 to 5 pins for this new piece of content. They're all different and distinct. And of course, you're going to SEO optimize your pin. So you're going to craft a title and a description, and you're going to decide what the best possible board to pin it to is. Then you're going to pin your first pin from your content, if possible, using a tool like Social Warfare Pro or Grow Social Pro as a plugin for WordPress. Then you're going to take your remaining pins and schedule them at least 7 days between saving the same piece of content again. Yes, you can pin to different boards. That's allowed. Just make sure those boards are relevant for your content. And lastly, you're going to add those pins after they've been saved to your board to a Tailwind community to increase the reach and exposure of your pins. So here are a few pro tips to help you to make the most of your time. I encourage you to batch design your pins. So you can sit down and design multiple pins for your content at once. So say, for example, you've created 4 new blog posts this month, design all your pins together. I also encourage you, keep an eye on your content. If you've pinned a couple of pins to this new piece of content and you notice that it's taking off, that people are engaging and clicking, that's a sign that you should design even more pins. Don't limit yourself to 3 or 5, but I encourage you to test your content before you invest even more time into designing pins because you want to drive traffic to your best content. This is how you're going to increase your traffic. Give the people what they want is my best advice when it comes to Pinterest. So if you have a piece of content that's doing well, design even more pins and continue to schedule them. So for example, I like to schedule my subsequent pins at least 1 month at a time. I have so much content. I just use the same day. So if it's the 10th that the pin goes out this month, I'll just do the 10th of next month and so on and so on and so on. That's how I space out my pins because I have so much content. If you have less content, then you can pin a little bit more frequently, but I would still stick to that 7 days before sharing the same link again. So there you have it. That's the best way to pin on Pinterest. You can use Tailwind to get farther ahead with your pinning. It's really going to help with consistency. But you can also use the Pinterest website to schedule 2 weeks at a time. That might work for you. You might have better engagement and luck with your pins that you use with the native scheduler on Pinterest. You just have to remember to note in your calendar that every 2 weeks you have to come back and schedule more pins. So be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and pinning is now easier than ever. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel because I love being your Pinterest coach. And stick around, you're gonna find this video helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.